Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. This is the opening line show that we do every Monday with Joe Duffy from offshoreinsiders.com, where we discuss which lines might wind up being sharp sides, public sides, or move a bit from where they are right now. Joe from offshoreinsiders.com. Thanks for being back with us.
Thank you, Peter. It's one of my favorite times of the week.
All right. How'd you do at offshoreinsiders.com this past weekend?
Well, we had a fantastic weekend in college football. 3-1 our Wise Guy plays yesterday, although we actually had more winners than losers in the NFL, thanks to we had on the money line, Jacksonville plus the 559. So we made people money in college and pro football again this weekend.
Good to hear. Joe Duffy from offshoreinsiders.com. All right, let's take a look at some of these opening lines. We're looking ahead right now to NFL Week 11. And I don't know, which sides might be public sides? Maybe the Pats. You know, on Monday night, the Pats are an underdog on the road, but I know the public loves to bet the Pats. And, Carolina off the game against San Francisco. You think the public might bet New England?
Well, yet again, great minds think alike, because I looked at that game and I'm like, which side is the public going to go with? Because you never want to assume that the public is going to bet against Tom Brady, but Carolina all of a sudden has turned it around big time. Cam Newton, he didn't necessarily have a spectacular day yesterday, but he's gotten back in a groove. So Carolina's red hot. Cam Newton's red hot. I think it's kind of going to be a standstill. I think some of the public is always going to want to bet on Tom Brady, but the way Carolina is playing and playing at home, I don't think they're really going to fade Carolina. So I think there's going to be people from each extreme. I don't think there's going to be a major public movement on that game.
Yeah, and then another game that might be interesting in terms of the action is Washington at Philly, right? Now, Philly has now, won 2 straight games in a row on the road, and, their offense looks like it's starting to, rev up again. And, if you take the idea that the public is puts too much weight on recent games, Washington, lost at Minnesota. You think that that might be a sharp public split? You think the sharps might come in on Washington plus 3.5, public taking Philly?
Yes, definitely the public is going to bet Philadelphia because Nick Foles has been beyond unconscious the last 2 games. He's looked like Peyton Manning, but if anything, I think the public is going to jump all over the over because, as we know, Chip Kelly has that fast-paced offense. Well, now that Nick Foles has been looking sensational, I think the public's going to bet the over. Plus, Washington, granted, RG3, he's had some ups and downs, but he's still looking a little bit better now than he was early in the season. So the public is going to bet on a lot of points. But all in all, which side will the public bet on? Philadelphia, without question.
All right, and then also another game that I have a feeling might creep up and have a sharp public split might be the Minnesota-Seattle game, right? Seattle's a 13.5-point favorite on opening, and with the way Seattle pounded Atlanta, and we all know how crappy Minnesota is in general, at least in the minds of the public. Even at 13.5, I think that the public might be attracted to that. Although maybe they do have the Tampa Bay game still fresh in their mind.
Yeah, this is one of those where I'm actually probably going to disagree with you, and I don't normally predict the public is going to bet on an underdog, but Christian Ponder 2 games ago showed some signs of life. He made some mistakes, but he also made some plays. And then last week, Christian Ponder was everything that Minnesota thought he was going to be. Seattle, yes, they blew out an injury-ravaged Falcons team yesterday, but entering the game, they had a lot of close victories. So this is actually a rare case where I'm going to predict that the public is going to bet on the big underdog simply because Christian Ponder the last 2 weeks has shown a lot of signs of finally being a competent NFL quarterback.
You think that I find that almost impossible to believe that in this game that the public will actually favor Minnesota. You actually think that's true?
Yeah, no, like I said, more times than not, they love the big favorite. But Seattle, yesterday was an exception against a Falcons team that's reeling. But Seattle hadn't been blowing out teams this year. They've been, like I like to say, by dichotomous spread team where they're winning straight up but not covering. But the public saw Minnesota and Christian Ponder actually look good on Thursday night, look respectable the week before. So, yeah, this is one of the few occasions where I'm going to go with the inferior team and say the public is going to bet them.
All right, well, we'll find out from Brent on Friday what kind of action he's seen on that game. I'll be very impressed if your prediction comes out to be true. I have a hard time believing it, but maybe it will. And then the other game that I wanted to bring up is a very interesting line. I'm not sure which way the sharps or the public will bet it. It's the San Francisco-New Orleans game. San Francisco got the loss where they were a big favorite against Carolina, and New Orleans, of course, high-profile blowout win over Dallas. New Orleans -3 at home. The public loves to bet New Orleans at home, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. And this is another game that I think, if anything, the public's going to bet the over, that it looks like New Orleans offense is getting better and better each week. Sean Payton was even quoted after the game as saying he thinks they're hitting stride on offense, and I don't think he was blowing smoke. They are looking good. San Francisco, Colin Kaepernick has had his shares of ups and downs, but we know that he is a playmaker, and Jim Harbaugh is a smart coach. He knows he can't play keep away. He's going to have a big game from Kaepernick. But yeah, the betting against the Saints at home is not going to happen by the public. The public is definitely going to bet New Orleans, and I also think they're going to bet this game over the total.
Okay. And then probably the craziest line of the week is KC at Denver, right?
Yeah.
Denver, sort of lived up to their hype last week against San Diego. They did get the easy win and cover, although it was by a slim margin. And KC, not the same kind of team on the road. They do have that phenomenal record, though, getting 8 points at Denver. I have no clue which way the Sharps would bet this game, and I guess I would assume that the public would take Denver, but I'm definitely not convinced of that either.
Yeah, no, this is perhaps one of the few times ever I'm going to twice in the same week say the public is going to bet an underdog. In fact, some of the software that I like to use and some of the metrics to see which direction the public is going, the early indications are that they are going to bet on Kansas City, but I do think there will be a sharp versus public split here. I do believe that the Sharps will bet on Denver, but the public is going to bet on Kansas City. They see a team with the best record in the NFL getting more than a touchdown. Rare case where the public is going to pounce on the underdog.
Wow. Bold prediction, Joe Duffy. That does happen once in a while, although I feel like we tend to see it more in college football. But we'll see. I'm very interested to see if Brent confirms, Brent from BetDSI, all of your predictions here. All right, looking over the card, it's kind of a tricky card to me. I have no opinions on any of the lines really as yet. Is there any line that jumps out at you? If I had to ask you for one line that you think might wind up being a sharp side this week, what do you think it might be?
No, it's one of those cases where the deeper you go into the season, the more injuries there are. A bunch of games are circled. But I guess I'm going to have to get back to the game we just talked about. I would be very surprised if the sharp money does not come in on Denver.
Wow.
But I also think it's going to be balanced out by the public money on Kansas City. So, and it's a game everyone wants to bet because it's a marquee game. So everyone's going to want to bet the game. I'm going to go way on a limb and say, as far as non-primetime games, it'll be the most heavily bet game of the week, possibly the year. So I think you're going to see all kinds of money coming in on both sides. But I believe that Brent will tell you the sharp money is going on in the favor.
All right, and if I had to ask you to identify one line that you think might move significantly from now until Friday, what do you think that might be?
Well, the Steelers coming off of their most impressive win of the year, not to mention they were able to sneak in an overtime win. All of a sudden, Pittsburgh's starting to play good football, and they're a home underdog. I think the public is going to see the Pittsburgh Steelers finally playing well and as a home underdog. So look for the public to bet on Pittsburgh as the small underdog. Wouldn't be surprised if it closes as a pick.
All right, thanks so much, Joe Duffy from OffshoreInsiders.com. Great call as always.